A bit over a year ago, me and my mother was walking towards my new school. I was gonna get into a new school, and a few weeks before the winter break for this year, when you celebrate Christmas and New Year's and stuff like that, I was gonna meet my new teacher and kind of like get a brief overview of what the new school would look like. And we walked towards the door, and the guy who's going to meet me is going to be my new mentor in this new class. And I shake his hand, we kind of like exchange names and do the polite stuff that you do when you meet a new person. And we walk up these stairs of this school, and I realized just kind of like how small this school was. Because earlier I'd been in a school with like 6 or 7 classes my grade or my year, and now it was like two. And the school was so small, it was almost like funny, it was almost like a joke. And he basically led me around the school and just showed, here's going to be your new classroom and stuff like that. And I start this new school in January next year, or last year actually. And then what happens is that I start the new school, I feel a bit shy, I don't really talk to that many people, but there are a lot of people that I've known from before and that I have some type of connection with, but I'm not very well connected with all of these people. So I kind of half know many people. And I remember on my first day, I don't really speak to that many, and it felt a little bit awkward during the first few hours. And I slowly started to get a little bit more integrated. And then I think it was like 4 or 5 weeks later, we have kind of like a follow-up call where we kind of like set up goals for the year that is about to come. And we were already halfway through. So this was kind of like my start of the new school, and to kind of like my mentor get an even better image of how my first few weeks at this school had been. And what happens then is that we sit in this table, me and my father this time actually, and we speak a little bit about like my goals, my ambitions, and I said to him that I have a history YouTube channel. I have a YouTube channel where I produce content and stuff like that. And my teacher was very supporting, and he was actually very positive that I was doing something like this. And I get asked a question. He asked me like, how do you feel about like friends? Do you feel well integrated? And how do the other people resonate with you? And I simply answer it pretty clearly. I say to him, I feel really great, but I'm a little bit like introverted, and I feel a little bit shy sometimes. And I didn't really think much of it there and then. But when we got back home, I remember that my father was standing in the kitchen and preparing food, and I was basically sitting in my sofa, and we were talking back and forth a little bit. And he said something, are you aware that your teacher's image of you and perception of you is probably become dictated of this interaction? And this interaction is pretty interesting because I don't think that you're the type of guy who is actually introverted. I think you're extroverted. I just think that it has become a coping mechanism just because you are not the person who's always first. You're not always the person who's like socially the most like forward. And it's nothing really wrong with that, but just keep in mind how you position yourself. And that message resonated with me. And it kept in my mind actually, and I didn't have that many friends at that time. And I was thinking to myself, now I'm going to level up my social skills. And this is why communication and your ability to speak is the most important skill to level up. And let's jump into the whiteboard right here, and for me to actually illustrate some of the things that I've used and also give you a short disclaimer before we get into it, is that I am not the perfect speaker, but I will actually cut in like 5 seconds or 10 seconds on my first ever video, and you will just see how much I've leveled up since that point. And this is just about a year on YouTube especially. Your beliefs and your mentality will determine whether you grow or you become stagnant with your present self and who you are right now. And now we will talk about even more credibility. So since this point, I've actually started to level up my social skills and my ability to articulate myself. And that is one of the most important things in my opinion, because everything that you do correlates with speaking, but what are some more credibility? So it all started in like February last year. And I started to level up my speech because I realized that this is something that I'm lacking. I'm not really good at this. And what I started to do was that I started to actually try to level this up. I looked into many different things. So what happened to me was that I went from this kind of like shy and introverted guy to starting seeing myself as more confident, and I still work with this. I'm not perfect. This is the quick disclaimer, by the way. I'm not the perfect speaker. I'm not best at this, but if you are the person who feels a bit shy and introverted, this is going to be the best guide for you, or the person who's just like, I don't really know how to position myself so that I can be more social, and also how I can become a better speaker, because it's always good to be able to articulate your thoughts. And in my like native language, I am a lot better than in English, but it's still very, very important for you to level this up. So, more credibility. In February, I would say like I had 3 friends that was a little bit distant, and we weren't really that close. And since that point, I've actually gained like, I would probably say like 10 friends I've got right now. And every single weekend, there's always something that I can do. There's always someone who I can contact, and I'm basically doing stuff every single weekend, which feels pretty good. And also, one of the things that I like, the probably the most regular comment that I get is, you are a really good speaker. And this is actually very positive for me, because this is something that I put in a lot of effort. And today I will teach you exactly how you can do this. So first of all, I want to cover something that if you can speak, you will win, no matter what you're speaking about. Because let's say this, someone is very passionate about what they're talking about, and someone is not very passionate, and they're just mundane, and they just talk like this, and they're more of a robot communicator. But if they're actually passionate about what they're teaching, this person, even though perhaps they don't have as a great argument, this person will always win over this one, just because it's just how you say stuff. It's not your actual words. It's more of the tonality and the body language and stuff like that that you use that actually matter. So understand that if you can speak well, you will win, because everything is sales. And what is the fundamentals of sales? Sales is basically built upon your ability to communicate with other people, and for you to actually emotionally integrate them into the conversation for them to feel welcome. And understand that everything is based on this. Every single human interaction that you have is built on top of body language, and also your ability to speak correctly and concisely. And another thing is that your mindset is key here. As I described earlier, when you see yourself as introverted, and you don't really see yourself as a great speaker, and you kind of like doubt your own ability to stand in front of an audience of people like this, and you don't really know how to actually present yourself so that these people get a positive perception of you. And if you actually believe that this is going to happen, that you are the one, you're going to perform the best presentation in school or work or whatever, this will actually become true, because what you believe kind of like radiates towards other people subconsciously. And this is one of the most interesting things that I've learned. I had a presentation the other week in, I think it was history, and I hadn't actually studied at all for this presentation. I kind of like knew, and we're going to present about World War II, which is actually one of my interests. I'm not an expert or anything. I just know some basic stuff. And what is pretty interesting is that I hadn't practiced at all for this. And I don't recommend you to do this, but I actually didn't want to put in that much effort, because you can only get like an F, which is like you get rejected basically, and you get like you're not actually, what is the word for it? Like right or correct. Your grade aren't necessarily like, this is actually alright, like an E. This is the lowest like positive grade that you can get. I can't think of the word right now. When I'm editing this, it's going to be a bit annoying because I'm going to know it. But anyway, you can only get like correct or incorrect, which is basically, and then I actually possessed myself, where I was like, okay, so I don't really need to study that much for it. So I actually performed a really good like presentation, even though I had not practiced for it, but I just simply implemented this little mindset thing where I just kind of like before take like 1 or 2 minutes to think of like, okay, so what are 3 things that I can think about in order for me to like perform the best to my possibility. And you may say, okay, so I'm going to have eye contact. And also another thing could be that you start to, let's say you don't read off a script, for example. It can be also eye contact, don't read off a script, and also be, let's say you practice in your mind before, like, what am I going to say, what are the bullet points, kind of like set these things up. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit like, I'm not sick, but like I've got a little bit of a cold, but it doesn't really matter. But think of a few things that you can do, and then start to visualize yourself afterwards, how positive it will feel that you've done a great presentation. Because once you visualize how great it has ended up, you will actually get this. A pretty cool story about this was like 9 days ago, I think it was. I was at an interview for a workplace, which was basically going to be a work that I have in the summer, and it is basically kind of like a customer service job where you sell stuff outside, which is kind of like seasonally related to the things that you can actually sell. So basically, what I did then was that I just visualized me in the summer working at this place, and guess what? I actually got the highest score on, I got a 5 out of 5 on the kind of like interview score, and I also got the work. So now I've actually got some work for this summer if I want to. And this is just how you position your mindset where you want to end up. So remember to actually keep your mindset clear before you move on into the next thing. So if you can speak, you will win, and just use this mindset principle that I just taught you and try to look at yourself as a great speaker. And how do we actually base this on action and become a really, really articulate speaker? And another thing I just want to say, and again, it's like quick disclaimer, I'm not the perfect speaker or anything. I've gotten decent at it, considering like for how short I've actually been doing this, just a year. And what is interesting is that it just takes 3 steps. And I also have some bonus tips that you can also utilize if you want to, for example, like get rid of this kind of like your own accent of your own country. And what I utilized was, first of all, record yourself. This is the most important thing if you want to become a better speaker. Record yourself. And if you think that this is a bit boring or, oh, boo-hoo, I already know this stuff, have you recorded yourself speaking for more than 10 days straight? You probably haven't. So then you need to do it. You have to take it into consideration, because this is what has led me from going to like a terrible, like a shit speaker, to now I'm actually able to actually translate the ideas to, I would say, like probably like 65 to 70% of the time I can actually say what I think in a manner that actually resonates with the people who listens and my audience. And the more you practice, this is how you get good at something. You just need to put in some effort and some practice. And you may say, I don't want to upload to YouTube or whatever. This is how you do it. You start every single day with like a 3 to 5 minute speech where you just yap about a random thing that happened in your life. Try to tell a story and also give a life lesson, especially if you're somebody who wants to get into YouTube or whatever, or want to become like perhaps a lecturer in the future or a therapist or whatever. This is the reason. The reason that you're doing this is you will actually be able to start to tell stories, and you will be able to review your content and review your speech. So what I did in the beginning of my own YouTube journey, for like the first 30 days, I was really consistent with this. And after that, to be honest, I kind of like dropped it because I'd actually improved so tremendously. But I would still recommend doing it even further. But I've started to do it again just for me to be able to review my speech once again. So you tell a story, and then you review it by watching it. And one thing that we can always do is speak at a higher volume, because when we're talking at camera, we're usually like talking like this, and because we're afraid that our parents will hear us or something. And you have to speak with conviction, because if you just do this from the beginning, you will actually position yourself in a great way. Because in my first ever videos, I spoke very, very timid. I was extremely afraid that people would hear me, that someone outside would actually see that I was recording. And now I don't give a shit, to be honest. Like, I'm sorry for my language there, but I don't care if people hear me, because I genuinely am passionate about this. I hope you see that. So start increasing your volume once you're doing this, and then you move on to the next step once you've actually recorded this story. And if you don't have any stories to tell, what I would suggest is go on to Google, search for a random word generator, and just generate a random word and try to talk about it for as long as possible, and link it to something that has happened in your own life. And the second step is pretty simple. Review. You can gain feedback from yourself and from other people. So there are basically two ways to gain feedback, and it's essentially you, which is pretty great in the beginning, because you can always see some stuff that you can actually improve in the beginning. And then once you get a little bit better, then you will actually need some other people. And then this can be others. And what I would suggest is go on to a community, or you can book a free call with a link in my description. If this is something that you are interested in, I can actually help you out with this as well. And you don't need to do this, but just find someone who can actually give you some constructive feedback on what you can actually do to improve your speech. And sit down and write down maybe a list of 3 things that you can do to your next video to actually improve it. So for this video, I tried to keep a little bit more eye contact. This is my own list. I tried to not repeat myself. And I also tried to speak with a little bit of a different voice tonalities and different rate of speech and stuff like that, just for you to be able to grasp what I'm saying, and also master some pauses sometimes, and then you just iterate. This is essentially what you do. This is what is going to build the foundation for you to become a better speaker, because then you can review yourself. And now we're getting into the bonus tips, and these are extremely valuable, so don't click off yet, just because these are extremely valuable, especially like this one is very, very valuable, this one as well, and all of these are extremely valuable, so I'm not going to waste your time anymore. But let's just move this away. Actually, I'll actually just group these together. I should have done this before the video, but just for me to get some clear new space. Now we can get into the bonus tips. So what are some bonus tips that you can utilize? First of all, start studying people. Start to study your favorite orators. Find out maybe like 2 to 5 people that you would actually want to speak like, and collect a list of them and kind of like summarize what highlights their speech. What highlights their speech in like a few words. Just copy the people that you like. And so for example, if I like a word that someone uses, I will start to implement it. Because once you start to implement words of the people that you like, you will become a so much more articulate and also concise speaker. So start copying people who speaks in a way that resonates with you. And the reason that I'm telling you this is because you have a completely different signature style from the beginning if you compare it to the people that you actually kind of like want to copy, so it won't really seem like a copycat. And this is the reason that I'm telling you this, because if you copy, like, let's say you copy just 5 words from like Jordan Peterson or whoever you consume content from, you will start to develop a signature style, because then you copy 5 words from another guy, and then another guy, and then another guy, and then you have 25 new words that you're using on a regular basis, and you've just developed more of a signature style. And I speak in a pretty basic way, because I have not developed my vocabulary enough so that I master words that are above like my capability right now. And to kind of like remove this accent that you have currently, because I am from Sweden, for example, and we Swedes tend to have a very, very like strong accent when it comes to English. I would probably say that I was like this a few years ago as well. To kind of like I don't think I have a video of it. If I have, I will actually put it, but I'm pretty sure I don't. But the way that I spoke then was more like this. I spoke a little bit more like this because this is how Swedish more sounds when you are not a native in English. And I've started to kind of like get away with that, and it all comes down to what type of airflow you have in your mouth, how you position your tongue, and these things matter a lot more than you think. Just how you position yourself in your mouth. So a cringe exercise that I can link back to more of the camera sort of stuff is actually to try to practice some different accents. Try an American accent sometimes, try a British accent sometimes, try whatever accent you want. And the more accent you practice on and the more you try to actually listen to how people from different parts of the world speak, the more you will get an understanding of how to actually implement this in your own kind of like style. And now I'm not saying that I'm perfect or anything with this, but I've actually started to remove a lot of this Swedish accent. Some people would probably hear that I am from Sweden, but I don't think it is very, very disturbing to hear me speak English and kind of more of my pronunciation parts. Perhaps it is, I don't even know, but if it is, then you can just comment and give me some feedback on that as well, because I'm learning this as well. And the last thing is read, and read out loud. It's fantastic because you get more words in your brain, you get knowledge, and you also get to pronounce. I don't want to write all of these words because it takes so much time, but you get what I'm saying here. Just reading out loud is extremely powerful because you start to realize how to actually communicate even further. So these are the bonus principles on how you can actually become a better speaker, and the more you just iterate this process and try to actually implement the bonus tips that I've just utilized, the more you will improve yourself. And if you're the type of person who feels a bit lost in life and you don't really know what to do, then what I would suggest is go to the link in the description and you can book a free call with a link in the description. If you feel lost, you don't really know where you fit in, and you don't know how to actually be courageous enough to maybe go and start that YouTube channel or whatever, I have the solution for you. You work with someone who's already done it. And I really, really do hope that you get some value out of this video. I'll see you in the next one.